Dr. Zixian's tentacles trembled as she reviewed the classified archives deep within the Galactic Council's most secure facility. The ancient data crystals contained information about humanity that had been sealed for over 3 centuries. As lead researcher for the Xenobiological Research Institute, she had finally gained clearance to investigate the mysterious species that had been banned from all galactic warfare. The prohibition seemed absurd to most civilizations. Humans appeared physically weak compared to the silicon-based Vorthak warriors or the energy-manipulating ethereals. Their technology lagged behind the great powers by several centuries. Their ships were crude, their weapons primitive, and their military tactics appeared straightforward. Yet the Galactic Council had unanimously voted to exclude them from any military conflict involving other species. Zixian's colleague, Professor Keth 9, materialized beside her workstation through quantum teleportation. His crystalline form chimed melodically as he spoke. "Have you discovered anything noteworthy about the human restriction protocols?" She gestured toward the holographic displays surrounding them. The official records state that humans were banned due to their unpredictable nature in combat scenarios. But these deeper files suggest something far more disturbing. The first document she accessed detailed humanity's introduction to galactic society 200 years earlier. They had been a recently spacefaring civilization, having just developed faster-than-light travel. Their delegate ships were welcomed with the standard first contact procedures, and they seemed eager to join the galactic community. Initial assessments classified humans as a Category 3 civilization, moderately intelligent, reasonably adaptable, with standard biological limitations. Their homeworld, Earth, showed signs of recent industrial development and environmental recovery. Nothing in their profile suggested they would become problematic. "Look at these early military exercises." Zixian highlighted several files. Humans participated in 3 joint training operations with other species. The Confederation requested their involvement to fill numbers for large-scale tactical simulations. The simulations had been routine affairs, designed to test coordination between different species and their varying combat doctrines. The reptilian saurians brought their heavy assault tactics. The insectoid hive mind contributed their overwhelming numerical superiority. The energy-based Lumina provided advanced technological support. Humans had been assigned basic infantry roles, expected to perform simple objectives, while the more advanced species handled complex strategic elements. Command staff from various civilizations observed these exercises to refine interspecies cooperation protocols. The first simulation results appear unremarkable, Keth 9 noted, reviewing the tactical summaries. Humans performed adequately in their assigned roles. No significant deviations from predicted behavior patterns. But Zixian had noticed something troubling in the detailed after-action reports. Read the psychological evaluations conducted on other species after each exercise. Pay attention to the stress indicators and behavioral modifications. The data revealed disturbing patterns. Saurian warriors, renowned for their fearlessness in battle, showed elevated cortisol equivalents after fighting alongside humans. Hive mind drones reported unprecedented individual decision-making incidents during human-integrated operations. Even the technologically superior Lumina began requesting transfers away from human-assigned sectors. These could be statistical anomalies, Keth 9 suggested, though his harmonic frequencies indicated uncertainty. Zixian opened another file containing video recordings from the second simulation. Watch this combat sequence. Humans are defending a supply depot against a simulated enemy assault. The footage showed human soldiers in their basic protective gear, armed with kinetic weapons that seemed crude compared to energy-based armaments used by other species. The attacking force consisted of Saurian shock troops, considered among the most formidable warriors in the galaxy. Initially, everything proceeded as expected. Humans established defensive positions and began returning fire. Their accuracy was respectable, though their weapons appeared to have minimal effect on Saurian armor. The exercise seemed destined to demonstrate human limitations in modern galactic warfare. Then, something unexpected happened. As Saurian forces pressed their attack, pushing humans back toward the depot, the human defenders' behavior began changing. Their tactical communications became more frequent and complex. Individual soldiers started making decisions that deviated from standard doctrine. Observe their coordination patterns. Zixian pointed to tactical overlays showing human movements. They're not following any recognized military formation or strategy from their own historical records. The humans began displaying what military analysts later termed adaptive improvisation. Instead of maintaining static defensive positions, they started using the depot structure in ways that hadn't occurred to exercise planners. They created unconventional firing angles, established overlapping fields of fire that maximized their inferior weapons' effectiveness, and began coordinating individual actions into a collective strategy that seemed to emerge spontaneously. More unsettling was their psychological response to combat stress. While other species showed predictable patterns under pressure, either becoming more aggressive or more defensive, humans seemed to become more creative. They found solutions to tactical problems that shouldn't have existed within the parameters of their assigned equipment and training. The Saurian assault was repelled, Keth 9 observed. That wasn't supposed to be possible given the equipment differential. That's not the concerning part, Zixian replied, highlighting post-exercise interviews. Look at what the Saurian veterans reported about fighting humans. The reptilian warriors, veterans of countless battles, described feeling uncertain and confused during the engagement. They reported that human defensive patterns felt wrong and that their standard assault tactics seemed ineffective for unknown reasons. Several Saurians requested psychological counseling after the exercise, claiming they had never experienced such disorientation in combat. The most disturbing report came from Saurian pack leader Graxith, a veteran of 47 major conflicts. Fighting humans was like fighting smoke that suddenly becomes solid and strikes back. Their movements made no tactical sense, yet they were devastatingly effective. I began questioning my own decisions, wondering if there were options I had never considered. This psychological impact on other species became the primary focus of subsequent investigations. Something about human combat behavior was affecting the mental state of other warriors in ways that military psychologists couldn't explain or predict. Dr. Zixian's investigation deepened as she accessed files from the third and final simulation involving human forces. The Galactic Military Council had designed this exercise specifically to understand the psychological effects observed in previous tests. They assembled their finest military minds to observe human combat behavior under controlled conditions. The scenario involved a complex multi-species operation where humans worked alongside ethereal energy manipulators and crystalline tactical coordinators. The mission required precision teamwork to capture a heavily fortified position, defended by automated systems and holographic opponents. The military observers included representatives from 12 different species, Professor Keth 9 noted, reviewing the participant list. Each civilization sent their most experienced combat analysts. Zixian highlighted the pre-exercise briefings. Everyone expected humans to struggle with coordination. Their technology couldn't interface directly with ethereal energy patterns or crystalline communication networks. They would have to rely on primitive radio communication and visual signals. The exercise began routinely. Ethereals established energy shields and began systematically dismantling the defensive automated weapons. Crystallines coordinated movements with mathematical precision, calculating optimal advancement routes. Humans took supporting positions, expected to provide basic covering fire while their more advanced allies handled the complex tactical elements. But within minutes, something extraordinary occurred. Humans began communicating with their alien teammates in ways that defied explanation. Despite having no technological means to interface with ethereal energy patterns, human soldiers somehow began anticipating ethereal shield movements and positioning themselves to maximize protective coverage. Watch this sequence. Zixian highlighted a specific moment. The ethereal commander adjusts shield frequency to counter incoming fire. The human squad leader immediately repositions his team to take advantage of the new defensive pattern. But there's no way he could have known about the frequency change. The footage showed the human soldier making tactical decisions that aligned perfectly with ethereal tactics, despite having no access to their communication networks. When questioned later, the human claimed he felt like the shield wanted to move that way, and positioned his team accordingly. Similar phenomena occurred with the crystalline coordinators. Their species communicated through harmonic frequencies that human ears couldn't detect. Yet human soldiers began moving in coordination with crystalline tactical adjustments before those adjustments were implemented. The crystallines reported feeling anticipated. Keth9 read from the post-exercise analysis. They described a sensation of their tactical decisions being felt by humans before being communicated through proper channels. More disturbing was the effect on the exercise itself. What had been planned as a 6-hour simulation concluded in 93 minutes with complete success. The automated defenses were neutralized, the objective captured, and all teams extracted without casualties. Military analysts struggled to explain how such perfect coordination had been achieved between species with completely incompatible communication systems. The real revelation came from the detailed psychological evaluations conducted afterward. Ethereal participants reported experiencing unprecedented clarity in their energy manipulation abilities while working alongside humans. Crystallines described their mathematical calculations becoming more intuitive and strangely creative during human-integrated operations. Look at these brain scans from the ethereal participants. Zixian displayed complex neurological data. Their energy processing centers showed activity patterns that have never been recorded before or since. It's as if proximity to humans in combat situations enhanced their natural abilities. Professor Keth9's crystalline form resonated with concern. These readings suggest that humans somehow affect the cognitive processes of other species during high-stress situations. But how is that possible? They show no signs of telepathic abilities or technological augmentation. The mystery deepened when investigators reviewed historical human conflicts from before their introduction to galactic society. Earth's military history was filled with examples of human forces achieving impossible victories against superior opponents. But these had been attributed to superior tactics, better equipment, or environmental advantages. I've been analyzing their pre-contact warfare. Zixian opened new files. Humans consistently demonstrated this same adaptive improvisation against each other. They called it thinking outside the box or unconventional tactics. But the pattern is identical to what we observed in galactic exercises. The evidence showed humans regularly defeating technologically superior human forces through creative application of available resources, unexpected tactical approaches, and seemingly intuitive coordination between independent units. Military historians had noted these patterns but attributed them to human intelligence and adaptability. But they never fought non-human opponents before joining galactic society, Keth9 pointed out. How do we explain the psychological effects on other species? The answer came from an unexpected source: xenobiology research conducted decades before human contact. Several studies had investigated how different species' cognitive patterns affected each other during cooperative tasks. Most species showed minimal influence on each other's thought processes, maintaining distinct mental patterns even during close collaboration. Humans appear to be cognitive catalysts, Zixian concluded after reviewing the comparative data. They don't just adapt to other species' thinking patterns. They somehow enhance and modify them. When a human works alongside an ethereal, the ethereal becomes more creative with energy manipulation. When humans coordinate with crystallines, the mathematical precision becomes more flexible and intuitive. The implications were staggering. Humans weren't just effective warriors. They made every other species more effective when fighting alongside them. They enhanced alien cognitive abilities in ways that those species had never experienced, creating hybrid tactical approaches that combined the best aspects of different military doctrines. This explains the psychological reports from other species, Keth9 realized. They weren't just observing human tactics. They were experiencing temporary cognitive enhancement that felt unnatural to them. No wonder they reported feeling confused and uncertain. The Military Council's final recommendation had been classified at the highest levels, but Zixian now understood its contents. Humans represented a fundamental disruption to established galactic military doctrine. Their presence in any conflict would grant whatever side they supported an unprecedented advantage, not through superior technology or numbers, but by enhancing the capabilities of their allies while simultaneously confusing and disorienting their opponents. The ban wasn't to protect other species from humans, Zixian whispered, her tentacles trembling with the magnitude of the discovery. It was to prevent humans from accidentally destabilizing the entire galactic military balance. Any faction that secured human alliance would become unstoppable, not because humans are powerful, but because they make everyone else more powerful. But as she prepared to document these findings, Dr. Zixian realized she had only uncovered the surface of the mystery. The classified files contained references to incidents that occurred after the war ban was implemented, suggesting that the Galactic Council's solution hadn't been as effective as they had hoped. Deep within the classified archives, Dr. Zixian discovered files that made her question everything she thought she knew about the war ban's effectiveness. Despite the Galactic Council's prohibition on human military involvement, incidents continued occurring throughout the galaxy, where human presence had influenced conflicts in unexpected ways. The first incident occurred only 18 months after the ban was implemented. The Frontier Rebellion in the Outer Rim had been a straightforward conflict between colonial separatists and the Galactic Trade Federation. Both sides used conventional forces and established military doctrines. The Federation's superior technology and resources should have ended the rebellion within weeks. According to official records, the rebellion lasted 3 years and ended in a negotiated settlement, Professor Keth 9 noted, reviewing the historical summary. Nothing unusual about that. But buried in the classified appendices, Zixian found reports of human civilian contractors who had been working on various colonial infrastructure projects when the rebellion began. These contractors were officially non-combatants, restricted to engineering and technical support roles far from active combat zones. Look at these tactical analyses from Federation commanders. Zixian highlighted several reports. They describe rebel forces displaying unprecedented coordination and creative, tactical approaches that didn't match previous separatist behavior patterns. The Federation military had expected to face predictable guerrilla tactics from undertrained colonial militia. Instead, they encountered resistance forces that seemed to anticipate Federation strategies and develop countermeasures that shouldn't have been possible with their limited resources. Regional Commander Vex Prime reported, increasing frustration with rebel capabilities. Enemy forces demonstrate tactical flexibility that suggests advanced military training, yet intelligence confirms they are primarily civilian volunteers with minimal combat experience. Their coordination across multiple sectors implies sophisticated communication networks that our monitoring systems cannot detect. The mystery deepened when Federation forces captured rebel communication equipment and found it to be standard civilian technology with no capabilities for advanced tactical coordination. Yet somehow, rebel forces across the entire sector continued operating with precision that military analysts couldn't explain. The breakthrough came when Federation intelligence began tracking human contractor movements. Zixian opened a detailed surveillance report. Every sector where rebels showed enhanced tactical capabilities had at least one human contractor working on infrastructure projects. The humans weren't directly participating in combat, but their presence appeared to be affecting rebel capabilities in the same way it had influenced Allied forces during the original military exercises. Colonial militia working near human engineering sites began displaying the same adaptive improvisation and intuitive coordination that had characterized human combat. Behavior. Professor Keth 9's crystalline form dimmed with concern. The humans were inadvertently spreading their cognitive enhancement effect to rebel forces just by being present in the region. It gets worse, Zixian replied, accessing additional files. Federation Command realized this pattern after 2 years of fighting. They requested all human contractors be removed from conflict zones, but the damage was already done. The rebel forces had been exposed to human cognitive patterns long enough for the enhanced tactical thinking to become somewhat self-sustaining. Even after human contractors departed, rebel coordination remained superior to Federation predictions, though it gradually declined over time. The incident established a terrifying precedent. Humans didn't need to be active combatants to influence military conflicts. Their mere presence near combat zones could fundamentally alter the capabilities of local forces, creating military advantages that persisted even after the humans departed. This explains why subsequent incidents became more carefully managed. Zixian discovered additional classified files. The Galactic Council didn't just ban human military service. They began monitoring human civilian presence in potential conflict zones. The next major incident occurred during the Silicon Wars between the Mechanoid Collective and the Organic Alliance. This conflict had been brewing for decades over resource rights in systems containing rare computational minerals. Both sides possessed roughly equal technological capabilities, making it a war of attrition that neither side could win decisively. Human merchants had established trading posts throughout the disputed region long before hostilities began. When war erupted, these trading posts were officially neutral, protected by galactic commerce treaties. The humans continued their commercial operations, providing supplies to both sides under strict neutrality agreements. The war's progression follows predictable patterns for the first year, Keth 9 observed, reviewing battle reports. Neither side gained significant advantages. Casualties remained proportional to force commitments, and strategic objectives changed hands regularly. Then something extraordinary happened. Organic Alliance forces operating near human trading posts began developing new tactical doctrines that confused Mechanoid strategic planners. Instead of the expected biological warfare advantages, organic forces started using mechanical thinking patterns to outmaneuver their opponents. Simultaneously, Mechanoid units stationed near different human trading posts began incorporating organic-style adaptive strategies that their programming had never included. They started making intuitive decisions that violated their logical constraints. Yet these decisions proved devastatingly effective. Both sides were being enhanced by proximity to humans, Zixian realized, but in completely different ways. The humans were somehow amplifying each species' natural capabilities while also introducing elements from their opponent's thinking patterns. The conflict escalated rapidly as both sides gained unexpected advantages that neither understood nor could replicate consistently. Battles became increasingly unpredictable as enhanced forces deployed tactics that confused even their own command structures. The war ended abruptly when leaders from both sides began experiencing similar cognitive enhancements during a peace negotiation held at a human trading station. They found themselves understanding their opponents' perspectives with unprecedented clarity while simultaneously developing creative solutions that addressed both sides' core concerns. The peace treaty signed at that station included innovations that political scientists still study, Zixian noted. Compromises that shouldn't have been possible given the fundamental ideological differences between the factions. But the most disturbing discovery came from post-war analysis. Military investigators found evidence that some factions had begun deliberately positioning forces near human settlements to gain tactical advantages, while others actively avoided human-populated areas to prevent their opponents from receiving cognitive enhancements. Humans had become an unwitting strategic resource, Professor Keth 9 concluded. Factions were trying to weaponize human cognitive effects without the humans' knowledge or consent. The Galactic Council's response was swift and decisive. They classified all information about human cognitive effects and established the Department of Human Monitoring, tasked with tracking human civilian movements and preventing their inadvertent involvement in military conflicts. But the monitoring reports suggest this strategy had limited success. Zixian discovered as she accessed the department's operational files. Humans are naturally drawn to frontier regions and emerging markets, which are often areas of potential conflict. Keeping them away from all possible combat zones proved nearly impossible. The department's records revealed dozens of minor incidents where human presence had influenced local conflicts, each carefully contained and classified. The pattern was always the same. Humans would establish communities or businesses in frontier regions, conflicts would erupt nearby, and local forces would begin displaying enhanced tactical capabilities. They tried relocating entire human communities. Zixian read through relocation orders, moving them away from potential conflict zones to safer, more stable regions. But the relocation efforts created new problems. Human communities moved to stable regions began experiencing economic difficulties due to reduced trading opportunities. Some humans ignored relocation orders entirely, disappearing into the frontier regions beyond galactic monitoring. Others complied with relocation but suffered psychological problems from being separated from the exploratory lifestyle that seemed fundamental to their nature. The final monitoring report makes a disturbing recommendation. Zixian accessed the department's last classified file. They concluded that the only way to prevent human cognitive effects from destabilizing galactic military balance would be to impose permanent settlement restrictions on the human species. The recommendation suggested confining all humans to designated reservation worlds, preventing their dispersal throughout the galaxy, and establishing permanent monitoring stations to ensure compliance. It represented the effective imprisonment of an entire species to protect galactic stability. This recommendation was submitted to the Galactic Council 3 months ago, Professor Keth 9 observed, checking the file timestamps. But according to recent intelligence reports, it was never implemented. Something prevented the Council from taking such drastic action. Dr. Zixian realized her investigation had uncovered only part of the story. The final truth about humanity's warband lay in discovering what had prevented the Galactic Council from implementing the ultimate solution to the human problem. Dr. Zixian's investigation took an unexpected turn when she accessed the Galactic Council's emergency session records from 3 months earlier. The meeting had been called to discuss the Department of Human Monitoring's recommendation for permanent human settlement restrictions, but the proceedings revealed a shocking development that changed everything. The session began routinely with Department Director Admiral Thex Corvian presenting evidence of continued human cognitive effects despite the warband. Representatives from major civilizations reviewed incident reports and expressed growing concern about galactic stability. The recommendation for human reservation worlds seemed destined for approval. Then Council member Zenithar 5 of the Mathematical Consortium requested permission to present contradictory evidence. As one of the galaxy's leading experts on cognitive interaction patterns, Zenithar 5 had been conducting independent research into human psychological effects. The Mathematical Consortium has discovered that our initial assessments of human cognitive influence were fundamentally incomplete. Professor Keth 9 read from the session transcript. Zenithar 5 claimed that focusing on military applications had caused investigators to miss the broader implications of human cognitive interaction. Zenithar 5's research had examined human effects in non-military contexts, scientific research facilities, diplomatic missions, and civilian cooperation projects. The results painted a completely different picture of human cognitive influence. In every observed case, human presence enhanced the capabilities of other species without negative side effects. Zixian highlighted the key findings. Scientific research teams with human participants produced breakthrough discoveries at rates 50% higher than baseline. Diplomatic missions, including humans, achieved resolution rates that exceeded historical averages by significant margins. The research revealed that human cognitive enhancement wasn't limited to military applications. In scientific contexts, researchers working alongside humans began making creative connections between disparate fields of study that led to innovative theoretical breakthroughs. Diplomats found themselves developing previously unconsidered compromise solutions that satisfied multiple parties' interests. Most importantly, these effects didn't cause the confusion and disorientation reported in military contexts. In peaceful situations, other species described the enhanced cognition as natural and comfortable, leading to improved satisfaction and cooperation rather than psychological distress. The negative effects observed in military exercises were not inherent to human cognitive influence. Zenithar 5's report concluded. They resulted from applying enhanced creative thinking to combat situations, where such thinking conflicted with established military doctrines and species-specific warrior psychology. The revelation fundamentally challenged the premise behind the warband. Humans weren't inherently destabilizing. Their cognitive effects were destabilizing, only in militaristic contexts where creative thinking disrupted established patterns of conflict. Council member Dr. Hivith from the collective consciousness raised the obvious question: if human cognitive effects are beneficial in peaceful contexts, why do they cause problems in military situations? Zenithar 5's response had profound implications. Because most galactic species have developed military doctrines based on predictable, standardized approaches to conflict. Human cognitive enhancement introduces variables that these doctrines cannot accommodate. It's not that human influence tactics are inherently superior, They're simply so different from expected patterns that they disrupt the psychological foundations of traditional warfare. The mathematical consortium had identified the core issue. Galactic military doctrine had evolved over millennia to manage conflicts between species with fundamentally different but predictable approaches to warfare. Each species developed fighting styles based on their natural abilities and limitations, creating a stable, if competitive, military balance. Humans introduced an element of radical adaptation that rendered traditional military psychology obsolete. They didn't just change tactics, they changed how other species thought about tactics entirely. But there's more. Zixian discovered additional research data. Zenithar 5 presented evidence that human cognitive effects were actually preventing conflicts rather than destabilizing them. The research examined regions with established human civilian populations and compared conflict rates to areas without human presence. The results were remarkable. Sectors with significant human populations showed dramatically reduced instances of interspecies military conflict. Look at these statistical analyses. Professor Keth9 highlighted the data. Regions with human civilian populations report 70% fewer military incidents than comparable areas without human presence. The mechanism was elegant in its simplicity. Human cognitive enhancement affected all species equally, preventing any single faction from gaining decisive tactical advantages. When multiple sides in a potential conflict were influenced by human presence, they all experienced similar levels of enhanced creative thinking, maintaining relative balance while reducing the likelihood of violence. More importantly, the enhanced cognitive flexibility made diplomatic solutions more apparent and appealing to all parties. Instead of seeing conflict as the only option, species influenced by human presence began developing creative alternatives that addressed underlying disputes without requiring military action. Humans aren't destabilizing galactic peace. Zenithar 5's presentation concluded. They're creating a new form of stability based on enhanced cooperation and creative problem-solving rather than military deterrence. The council session erupted in debate as representatives grappled with these revelations. The Saurian military delegate argued that disrupting established military traditions would leave the galaxy vulnerable to external threats. The ethereal representative countered that enhanced cognitive cooperation could develop defenses superior to traditional military approaches. The turning point came when Council Speaker Prime Unity requested a practical demonstration. They arranged for a conflict resolution simulation involving representatives from historically antagonistic species, conducted both with and without human facilitators. The results were unprecedented. Zixian read through the simulation reports. Conflicts that had persisted for centuries found resolution within hours when human facilitators were present. The crystalline void conflict over dimensional mining rights had deadlocked for decades because both species approached the problem from completely incompatible perspectives. Crystallines viewed dimensional space as mathematical reality, to be calculated and divided precisely. The void entities experienced dimensions as living spaces that couldn't be quantified or partitioned. With human facilitators present, both sides began developing hybrid approaches that incorporated mathematical precision with spatial sensitivity. They created mining protocols that satisfied crystalline needs for quantifiable results while respecting void requirements for dimensional integrity. The solution wasn't a compromise where both sides gave up something, Professor Keth9 observed. It was a creative synthesis that gave both sides more than they originally thought possible. Similar results occurred across multiple simulations. The hive-mind territorial dispute, the energy-matter-resource conflict, and the temporal linear philosophical war all found resolution through human-facilitated enhanced thinking that created previously inconceivable solutions. The Galactic Council faced an unprecedented decision. Their original assessment of humans as a destabilizing force had been based on incomplete information. Humans weren't threatening galactic peace. They were offering a path toward a more advanced form of civilization based on cognitive cooperation rather than military competition. The vote was unanimous. Zixian discovered the final session record. The Council rejected the human settlement restriction proposal and instead established the Department of Interspecies Cognitive Enhancement to study beneficial applications of human cognitive effects. But the transcript revealed one final mystery that made Dr. Zixian's tentacles tremble with excitement. In the session's closing remarks, Council Speaker Prime Unity mentioned that the new research had been prompted by a formal request from humanity itself. The humans had contacted the Galactic Council directly, requesting a review of the warband and presenting evidence that they had been conducting their own research into their cognitive effects on other species. Keth 9 read with amazement. Humans knew about their abilities all along, Zixian whispered. They had been studying their own impact on other species and had reached out to the Council to correct the misunderstanding that led to their military ban. The revelation meant that humanity's exclusion from galactic warfare hadn't been imposed upon them by fearful aliens. It had been a temporary measure, while both humans and the galactic community worked together to understand. Dr. Zixian's breakthrough came when she discovered that the Galactic Council archives contained not only alien observations of human behavior but also humanity's own diplomatic communications and research reports. These files had been classified under different access protocols, explaining why previous investigators had missed the complete picture. The human perspective revealed a story far more complex than anyone had imagined. Humanity had been aware of their cognitive effects on other species from their very first contact with galactic civilization, but their understanding of these effects differed dramatically from alien interpretations. Look at this first diplomatic report from Ambassador Sarah Chen. Professor Keith 9 highlighted a document dated shortly after humanity's introduction to the galaxy. She describes experiencing what she calls enhanced intuition when working with alien colleagues. Ambassador Chen's report detailed her observations during early diplomatic meetings. She noted that conversations with alien representatives seemed to flow more smoothly than expected, with creative solutions emerging spontaneously during discussions. She attributed this to excitement about first contact and natural diplomatic enthusiasm. But read her psychological assessments of the alien delegates. Zixian pointed to detailed observations. She documented behavioral changes in her alien counterparts that precisely match what we now know about human cognitive effects. Chen had noticed that Saurian military attachés became more flexible in their thinking during extended negotiations. Crystalline mathematicians began incorporating intuitive leaps into their logical processes. Ethereal energy diplomats developed communication patterns that were more emotionally nuanced than their species typically displayed. The human ambassador had interpreted these changes as positive signs of successful interspecies cooperation. She didn't realize that human presence was fundamentally altering alien cognitive processes. Humans initially thought they were just good at making friends, Zixian observed. They attributed the enhanced cooperation to their own diplomatic skills rather than recognizing it as a biological or psychological phenomenon. The pattern continued. Through early human integration into galactic society, human settlers in frontier regions reported that alien neighbors became more cooperative and creative over time. Human traders found that business negotiations with alien partners were unusually successful, often resulting in innovative deals that benefited all parties beyond initial expectations. Human scientists working in interspecies research teams consistently produced breakthrough discoveries, but they attributed their success to the benefits of diverse perspectives rather than recognizing their role in enhancing alien cognitive capabilities. They genuinely didn't understand what they were doing to other species, Professor Keth 9 realized. From their perspective, they were simply being naturally collaborative and creative. The first hint of awareness came during the military exercises that led to the war ban. Human military psychologists had been assigned to observe the joint training operations and provide assessments of interspecies cooperation effectiveness. Dr. Michael Torres, chief psychologist for the human contingent, submitted reports that revealed growing understanding of the situation. His initial assessments focused on how well human soldiers adapted to alien military doctrines, but he gradually began noticing patterns in alien behavior that concerned him. Torres documented systematic changes in alien psychological profiles during human integrated operations. Zixian read through his classified reports. He observed stress indicators in alien species that didn't correlate with normal combat. Pressure. Dr. Torres had been the first human to recognize that their presence was affecting alien mental processes in ways that caused distress. His reports described Saurian warriors displaying cognitive dissonance and crystalline tacticians experiencing logical framework disruption during exercises with human forces. Torres recommended immediate psychological evaluation of all non-human participants. Keth 9 noted, he suspected that humans were inadvertently causing psychological harm to their alien colleagues. The human military command had taken these concerns seriously, establishing a joint research project with alien psychologists to investigate the phenomenon. This research revealed the scope of human cognitive effects and led to humanity's voluntary withdrawal from joint military exercises pending further investigation. Humans imposed the military ban on themselves. Zixian realized with shock. They requested exclusion from galactic warfare to protect other species from psychological harm. The human research team, led by Dr. Torres and alien cognitive specialist Zenithar 5, had been working together for over 2 years to understand human cognitive effects. Their collaboration had produced the breakthrough research that ultimately led to the Galactic Council's reversal of the war ban, but the human files revealed additional information that explained why this cooperation had been classified. Humanity had discovered that their cognitive effects weren't random or uncontrollable. With proper training and awareness, humans could learn to modulate their influence on other species. Look at these training protocols. Professor Keth 9 accessed restricted human military files. Humans developed techniques for consciously controlling their cognitive impact on alien teammates. The training involved meditation practices that helped humans become aware of their mental states and how those states affected nearby aliens. Advanced techniques allowed humans to deliberately enhance specific cognitive functions in their alien partners while minimizing disruptive effects. They turned their natural ability into a precise tool, Zixian observed. Instead of randomly enhancing alien cognition, they could selectively improve problem-solving, creativity, or coordination as needed. The implications were staggering. Humans weren't just naturally gifted at cognitive enhancement. They could learn to use this ability with surgical precision. A properly trained human could help a crystalline mathematician solve theoretical problems, assist an ethereal diplomat in finding creative compromises, or enable a Saurian warrior to develop new, tactical approaches without causing psychological distress. The training protocols had been developed in secret to prevent other species from learning about human capabilities before the effects were fully understood. The last thing humanity wanted was to become tools for various galactics, factions seeking military or technological advantages. This explains why the information remained classified. Even after the war ban was lifted, Keth 9 realized. Humans were protecting themselves from exploitation while they developed control over their abilities. The files revealed that select humans had been undergoing advanced training for the past 2 years. These individuals served as ambassadors, researchers, and facilitators in carefully controlled interspecies cooperation projects. Their success had provided the evidence that convinced the Galactic Council to reverse the war ban. But humanity had one more surprise. The final classified document in their diplomatic archives outlined their ultimate proposal for galactic integration: the establishment of Human Cognitive Enhancement Corps, a volunteer organization of specially trained humans who would work with other species to solve complex problems and resolve conflicts. They want to formalize their role as cognitive facilitators. Zixian read through the proposal. Humans offering their services to any species or organization that needs enhanced problem-solving capabilities. The proposal included strict ethical guidelines to prevent exploitation. Humans would work only on voluntary basis, with full consent from all participating species. They would focus on beneficial applications, scientific research, diplomatic mediation, and peaceful cooperation projects. Most importantly, the proposal included provisions for training other species in similar techniques. Human researchers believed that with proper instruction, other species might develop their own cognitive enhancement abilities, reducing dependence on human facilitators. They're not trying to make themselves indispensable, Professor Keth 9 observed. They want to teach others how to achieve similar results independently. The proposal had been submitted to the Galactic Council just 1 month earlier. Explaining why it hadn't appeared in Dr. Zixian's initial research, the Council was currently reviewing the proposal and conducting feasibility studies for implementation. But there's something else. Zixian discovered one final encrypted file. Humans have been monitoring galactic affairs and have identified several critical situations where their intervention might prevent catastrophic conflicts. The file contained intelligence reports about brewing disputes between major galactic powers, resource wars that could destabilize entire sectors, territorial conflicts that threatened trade routes, and ideological disagreements that were escalating toward violence. Human analysts had developed intervention strategies for each situation, using their cognitive enhancement abilities to facilitate peaceful resolutions. But implementing these strategies would require official authorization from the Galactic Council and cooperation from the affected species. Humans aren't just offering their services, Zixian realized. They're proposing to actively prevent wars that could devastate galactic civilization. The revelation transformed her understanding of the entire situation. The warband hadn't been about protecting themselves from exploitation while they developed control over their abilities. The files revealed that select humans had been undergoing advanced training for the past 2 years. These individuals served as ambassadors, researchers, and facilitators in carefully controlled interspecies cooperation projects. Their success had provided the evidence that convinced the Galactic Council to reverse the war ban. But humanity had one more surprise. The final classified document in their diplomatic archives outlined their ultimate proposal for galactic integration: the establishment of Human Cognitive Enhancement Corps, a volunteer organization of specially trained humans who would work with other species to solve complex problems and resolve conflicts. They want to formalize their role as cognitive facilitators. Zixian read through the proposal. Humans offering their services to any species or organization that needs enhanced problem-solving capabilities. The proposal included strict ethical guidelines to prevent exploitation. Humans would work only on voluntary basis with full consent from all participating species. They would focus on beneficial applications, scientific research, diplomatic mediation, and peaceful cooperation projects. Most importantly, the proposal included provisions for training other species in similar techniques. Human researchers believed that with proper instruction, other species might develop their own cognitive enhancement abilities, reducing dependence on human facilitators. They're not trying to make themselves indispensable, Professor Keth9 observed. They want to teach others how to achieve similar results independently. The proposal had been submitted to the Galactic Council just 1 month earlier, explaining why it hadn't appeared in Dr. Zixian's initial research. The Council was currently reviewing the proposal and conducting feasibility studies for implementation. But there's something else. Zixian discovered one final encrypted file. Humans have been monitoring galactic affairs and have identified several critical situations where their intervention might prevent catastrophic conflicts. The file contained intelligence reports about brewing disputes between major galactic powers, resource wars that could destabilize entire sectors, territorial conflicts that threatened trade routes, and ideological disagreements that were escalating toward violence. Human analysts had developed intervention strategies for each situation, using their cognitive enhancement abilities to facilitate peaceful resolutions. But implementing these strategies would require official authorization from the Galactic Council and cooperation from the affected species. Humans aren't just offering their services, Zixian realized. They're proposing to actively prevent wars that could devastate galactic civilization. The revelation transformed her understanding of the entire situation. The warband hadn't been about protecting the galaxy from dangerous human abilities. It had been a temporary measure while humanity learned to control their gifts and develop ethical frameworks for their use. Now humans were ready to emerge from isolation and offer their cognitive enhancement abilities to benefit all galactic civilization. But Dr. Zixian realized that accepting humanity's proposal would fundamentally transform galactic society in ways that no one yet fully understood. Dr. Zixian completed her research just as the Galactic Council announced its decision regarding humanity's proposal for the cognitive enhancement. Of course, the timing was no coincidence. Her investigation had been commissioned specifically to provide independent verification of human claims about their abilities and intentions. The Council chamber buzzed with unprecedented energy as representatives from across the galaxy gathered for the historic announcement. Dr. Zixian and Professor Keth9 had been invited to present their findings. providing crucial context for the Council's decision. After extensive review of both human proposals and independent research, Council Speaker Prime Unity announced, "The Galactic Council has voted to accept humanity's offer to establish the Cognitive Enhancement Corps, with immediate implementation of pilot programs across 12 sectors." The decision represented a fundamental shift in galactic civilization. For the first time in recorded history, a species was offering to share its unique abilities freely with all other civilizations, without seeking political or economic advantage in return. Ambassador Sarah Chen, now serving as humanity's primary representative to the Galactic Council, outlined the implementation plan. The Corps will begin with 50 trained volunteers working in scientific research, diplomatic mediation, and conflict prevention. Each volunteer will be paired with alien specialists to ensure optimal cooperation and mutual benefit. The pilot programs had already been designed based on the most pressing galactic needs. The temporal linear philosophical conflict that had threatened to split several sectors would receive immediate attention from human-facilitated diplomatic teams. The resource shortage crisis in the Outer Rim would be addressed by human-enhanced scientific research groups working to develop alternative technologies. Most significantly, the brewing territorial dispute between the Mechanoid Collective and the expanded hive mind would be prevented through early intervention by human cognitive facilitators working with both sides to develop creative solutions before positions became entrenched. But the real breakthrough isn't just human participation. Dr. Zixian addressed the Council. "Our research reveals that human cognitive enhancement effects can be learned and replicated by other species with proper training." Her investigation had uncovered evidence that several alien species were developing their own cognitive enhancement techniques based on studying human methods. The mathematical consortium had made significant progress in teaching crystalline individuals to enhance creative thinking in other species. The Ethereal Collective was experimenting with energy-based cognitive amplification techniques. Within a generation, multiple species may possess cognitive enhancement abilities, Professor Keth9 added. This could represent the next phase of galactic evolution. The implications were staggering. Instead of remaining dependent on human facilitators, galactic civilization was developing toward a state where enhanced cognitive cooperation became the norm, rather than the exception. Complex problems would be solved through collaborative enhanced thinking, rather than competition or conflict. Ambassador Chen revealed humanity's ultimate vision for galactic society. "We believe cognitive enhancement represents an evolutionary step that all species can achieve. Our goal isn't to remain unique or special. It's to help everyone develop these abilities so that enhanced cooperation becomes the foundation of galactic civilization." The first results from the pilot programs exceeded all expectations. The temporal linear conflict was resolved within 6 weeks through a solution that satisfied both factions, while opening new possibilities for dimensional research that neither had previously considered. The resource shortage crisis led to breakthrough technologies that not only solved immediate problems, but established sustainable resource cycles for the entire sector. Most remarkably, the territorial dispute between the Mechanoid Collective and the expanded hive mind never materialized. Human facilitators helped both sides recognize that their apparent territorial conflict was actually an opportunity for symbiotic cooperation that would benefit both civilizations more than separate territorial control. The success rate is unprecedented. Dr. Zixian reported to the Council 6 months after implementation. "Every conflict addressed by human-facilitated teams has found resolution through creative solutions that benefit all parties involved. But the most significant development came from an unexpected source. The warrior species that had initially reacted negatively to human cognitive effects began requesting human facilitators for their own internal conflicts. The Saurian military, once confused and disturbed by human influence, discovered that controlled cognitive enhancement helped them develop more effective defensive strategies and reduced casualties in necessary conflicts. "We're not eliminating conflict entirely," explained Saurian war leader Graxith, the same veteran who had reported psychological distress during early human military exercises. "We're making conflict more intelligent and less destructive. Human-enhanced thinking helps us find victories that don't require defeating enemies, but rather converting them into allies." the transformation extended beyond military applications. Saurian society began using cognitive enhancement techniques for infrastructure planning, resource management, and social organization. Their rigid hierarchical structure evolved into a more flexible system that maintained order while encouraging innovation and adaptation. Similar transformations occurred across participating civilizations. The Crystalline Consortium developed hybrid mathematical intuitive thinking patterns that revolutionized their approach to dimensional engineering. The Ethereal Collective learned to combine their energy manipulation abilities with enhanced emotional intelligence, creating new forms of interspecies communication. The hive mind entities experienced perhaps the most dramatic change. Human cognitive enhancement helped individual drones develop independent thinking while maintaining collective coordination. They evolved from a purely collective consciousness into a hybrid individual collective intelligence that CE